Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. About 2 years ago, I showed you a sample of swatch fabric and I asked you guys what you thought I should be making with them. You gave me loads of ideas and I've had a lot of trouble with the fabric. So I'm going to show you how I got it in the first place. This isn't the range, but what's on here, well, these ones have nice big pieces on the front. But when you get further down into the range of fabric, there's a whole heap of upholstery fabric samples in different colours, and they're amazing colours as well. They're just beautiful things that you want to work with. The only problem is that each one of these pieces has a really big wad of paper on the back of them. So after I've pulled them off the board, this is what I've ended up with. So I've got two thin strips on the side and quite a large piece on the bottom. The other problem that I also had was that each one of the pieces had a hole in the centre of the top of the fabric. There are also staple marks at the bottom, which don't matter because they haven't affected anything on the fabric. But the problem that I've had is trying to come up with ideas, or even to try and use the suggestions that you gave me to make something. So, and also to try and get the most out of the fabric. So I've put it away for a couple of years and I look at it nearly every single day. So I hadn't forgotten about it. It was just like a thorn in my side. Today's the day I'm going to start using all of these up. I've got everything paired up. I can't lift it. I've got everything paired up into my colorways that I want to put together. And what we're going to do is just make a very quick lined wallet. So I'm using the hole that is in the fabric. This is one of the problems. I didn't want to cut off any excess fabric. So this is two pieces of fabric like this joined together. And then we have a lining piece on the inside as well, and a couple of snaps on the outside. So those snaps just happen to be where the holes were in the fabric. So we're going to make some little wallets. You can make them in any size at all. I'm hesitant to put any size down for this particular video because you can really just build up your fabric into any size that you like and just make something as simple as this. So I've got loads of different colours. We're going to make a couple today. Let's get straight to it. I've been through and paired up all of these samples into what I think might look good together. I can always change my mind. But what we're going to do is maybe work on these two today. So we have the papers on the back, which are an absolute pain. And as I've mentioned previously, I have tried many different ways of removing the paper. I've tried chemicals, washing machine, you name it, I've given it a go, and the heat press. So what I'm going to do today is cut around or cut those papers off. Now we've got holes in the top here. I'm going to line up those holes because I'm going to use those in the bag or in the pouch. This is just randomly sized, but if you need measurements, I will put them up on the screen shortly. So after all that paper's removed, this is what we have, two pieces of fabric that will go together. It seems very wasteful, but if I factor my time into the removal of this paper, at $60 an hour, the customer has to be charged for that, and they're not going to pay $20 for something like this because it takes me so long to get the paper off. So sometimes the paper and the fabric does have to be sacrificed. It's just a shame these companies don't make it easier for the paper to come off. You know, a little bit of forward thinking would be wonderful. I'll line up those holes again. I have actually emailed this company and I emailed them I emailed them in every state of Australia, and not one of them responded to my email about how to remove the paper easily. So that's the gist of what I'm doing. Now what we're going to do is take both of these to the machine. We'll place them side by side. Now I've forgotten which side is the right side. That can be the right side. So we're going to place the two right sides together, and I want to line up those holes in the fabric. I'm going to sew straight down this edge here. I'm going to do the same for this one. And sew straight down this edge as well. And this little bit of paper is still a pain to get off, so I'm just going to leave it. Once I've sewn down the long edge, I'll open it out and top stitch on one of those two sides. It's up to you whether you want to push your fabric. Well, actually, it's not up to you, it's up to the fabric. I want to push my fabric over to the left, but it doesn't want to, so I'll have to allow it to have its own opinion. And I'll top stitch this seam and behind this stripy fabric. And with this one, it wants to go to its left. So these are the upholstery samples stitched back together. So you can see that they give you a little bit more to work with. It's just such a shame they have holes in at the top, because I really want to be able to put a whole heap of pieces together and make a bigger bag or something bigger, but that's fine. I'll get by with these. I could make an eyelet bag with lots of pieces, but it would be too many eyelets, I think. Anyway, I've got these ready. You'll see that they're not quite square, and that's not a problem. I'm not interested in worrying about that just yet. I have a couple of pieces of fabric which you may recognise as being those horrible upholstery samples that I used not too long ago, but they fit perfectly, so I'm going to use them. What I want to do is place the right sides facing, so the printed on printed, and I'm only going to rough cut this just to make it more manageable to work with. And I'll do the same with this one. So you can see why size doesn't matter when it comes to cutting out your fabric pieces, because you can use any fabric piece you have and join them together like this. They don't have to have holes in them like this. If they don't, you've got a lot more to play with. I want to mark a curve at the top where the holes are. And once again, the curve doesn't really matter either. You can use whatever you like, the end of a cotton reel, the end of a cup. You just want two equal curves on the top section where the holes are, if yours has holes. So hopefully you can see those. And this one here isn't quite even. My curve is going to be measured from this fabric, not the top edge of this. So I will just eyeball that. And I'll clip that in place. We're going to sew the two pieces together all the way around and leave an opening on one side. So over here I'll leave an opening of about 3 or 4 fingers width, and I'll do the same for this one. Let's go do that. I've got my curved edge over here. I'm going to start over this side because that's where I'd like my opening. Back stitch. And as you come to the curve, I'm going to treat that curved marking the same as I treat the edge of the fabric here. So I'll be running my foot along the edge of that curve there to give me that curved edge. Pivot at the corner here. You'll notice that I've triple stitched over this seam at the top and the bottom, just for added strength. And back stitch here. And then I've left a little opening in here. Might be a bit small. Might leave a bigger opening on this one. So now we have sewn our pieces together and left an opening on one side. I'm going to square up all the fabric, or just trim the edges so that they're all nice and neat. And around the curved edge, I'll trim that back. And at the corners, we'll trim that as well. And now we can turn this the right way out. So you can see why it doesn't matter that your fabric pieces aren't the same size, because we can tidy everything up later. Saves a lot of time. You've got so many scrappy pieces to deal with that neatening everything up at this stage is far better than trying to neaten your fabric up at the beginning and cutting everything to the perfect size. Once you've poked out all your corners, tuck the opening edges in and clip it all the way around. Once you've clipped all your edges, the square edge at the bottom here, we need to take this back to the machine and top stitch along here. So we've got the curved edge along the top there. We want to top stitch these two edges. We'll go and do that now. All right, so I did take you guys over to the machine with me whilst I sewed up the bottom, but instead of recording the stitching, I just recorded my face. That angle, it's not a good look. So we've top stitched the straight edge at the bottom of both of these pieces. Grab any one now. And what we're going to do is fold the edge up and fold this flap down to make it look right. So really this is going to be up to you, because you might be using different sized fabric pieces to me, and you might have a different need for them as well. Keep in mind we've still got the opening clipped together, so I'll just keep the clips in there. I'm going to move this piece up from the bottom, and this has got the top stitched edge, and this one will fold down like this. So as long as it looks right, and if you need a measurement from top to bottom, it currently measures 8.5 inches, which is about 12 centimetres. If I fold this edge up, that will be 3 inches or 7.5 centimetres. I'll clip those edges together and double check that that folds over nicely, and that looks good. So what we're going to do now is sew from here up, around and down again. When I get to this section, I always like to triple stitch just to make sure that doesn't come undone, because there's a lot of bulk there. Once we've done that, all we need to do is put our snaps on. I'll do the same for this one. Fold this up 3 inches or 7.5 centimetres. Let's go do that. I'll try not to film my head this time. I'm starting at the fold down the bottom here. I just read a Facebook post about one of my viewers. She likes me to say here all the time. She finds it soothing, so I'm going to say here a few more times just for you, Victus. Backstitch here. triple stitch here, and then we can sew around this curved edge and come down the other side. I'll raise my foot here and back stitch and stitch all the way to the end. And I'll repeat for the other one. Alright, those side edges are done. The only thing left to do now is to put our snaps on. Now if you don't have holes in your fabric like I have in mine, then you just put your snaps anywhere you like, and you might only want to put one in the center instead of having one on each side. I'm going with two because it's going to make it look like a decorative feature, but I'm just covering up the hole basically. So where the hole is, poking a hole in the fabric behind it with my awl, and I'll grab an end cap and I'll stick that over the top. So you can see the hole. I'm not sure if you can actually. The hole that I have is much smaller than the cap, so it's going to cover the fabric quite well and it won't fall through the hole. And just make sure when you're putting these little caps on that these two are the same. So that's that side done. And you can just fold this down. You can have it up high like that to make it higher on the inside. So there's probably about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch gap on the inside. Or you can bring it down a little bit lower so that nothing falls out. So I've lined up the stitching line of these two pieces of fabric. That's nice and straight. I'm just going to press my finger down on the snap here. If it were quilting cotton, it would make a nice indent, but with this it probably won't. So I'm just going to take the awl and with the point of it line up the center of the snap with the position that it's going into and poke a hole in there. And I just want to poke through these layers, not through the entire bag or pouch. And then I'll grab another end cap, and that's going in from the inside. And I'll snap that one closed. And then I'll do the same for this one, work out whereabouts I want that snap to go. Squeeze that together and we're done. Too easy. I'll do the same with this one. And you know, sometimes you get these little snap sets, and I ordered a whole bunch of different colours some time ago, and they don't send you enough of each side. So if that happens, you can always put the colour that's not going to be seen on the back here. So if you've got end caps that are the wrong colour, pop them in on the underneath. These are not the right colour for this, but I'm going to have the pink showing up here, and then I'll put the mauve on this side. It won't be noticed by anybody but the user. And this whole thing is about using up reclaimed fabrics and, you know, things that were unloved, and these aren't loved. So I'll poke another hole in here. This hole is actually a little bit closer to the top than what I'd normally like, but it's not going to go anywhere, so I'll just live with it. There's still plenty of room for the snap to fit on there. I've completely forgotten to put labels on these bags as well, so I'm wondering if I actually need them. I think they're quite a small product, that my labels might be a bit intrusive. And there we have it. 2 little foldable pouches, completely finished, made out of the reclaimed fabric samples, and even the fabric on the inside is made of sample swatch fabric. I've got a few extras here. So this is another one that's got the 2 different colours in there. I did actually try this fabric to make puppy poo pouches, but the hole doesn't end up in the place that is right. So that one needs rethinking, but I have made one with a single piece of fabric. So this one here is using the whole piece of fabric like this, but I've already put this through the wash, tried to get rid of as much paper as I could. You can see that there's still bits on there, but the fabric is workable. And on the other side, it's an absolute mess. This is why I would much rather cut off the paper, have clean fabric to work with, and build it back up again. So if you want to go to the trouble of cleaning up your fabric pieces and then putting them together, you'll get a much bigger wallet out of it. Yeah, that's up to yourself. But I think for my sanity, it's much better to take the paper off. It just made a huge mess in the machine as well. And I did put these into wash bags. But yeah, they're a bit of a mess. So you can make a single bag if you want to go to the trouble of cleaning up the fabric, or even if you have wider fabric available. And the bags with the 2 pieces of fabric on there as well. This one here, the hole was in the centre, so I only needed the 1 snap, and this is 2 snaps just covering up a hole. So I don't think they turned out too badly at all. Look, they're not going to win any prizes in my shop for beauty or anything, but they are a very useful little pouch. They satisfy my need to use up whatever fabric I can of this. It's a shame I couldn't get rid of the paper without too much effort. I had tried washing. It left a lot of mess on my in my machine, in the slide inside the bags that I was using, and even on the paper or on the fabric itself. It was just so time consuming that it was much more cost effective to just cut the paper off. Anyway, I'm going to put these into the shop for probably $10 each. I don't think they're worth any more because they're not really that pretty. I haven't put any labels on, and I don't think I will be bothering with putting any labels on either. That just adds to the extra 30 seconds it might take to put the labels on. But yeah, I'm just going to put these in the shop for $10 each. People will love the fact that I've used reclaimed fabric and have used as much of the fabric as that I possibly can. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.